Buenos dias, niñas. Mama, papa, tío, tía, abuelo, abuela. Welcome to your third lesson, second year infants. And today we are looking at modes of transport. Our first lesson is going to be on modes of transport via water. Now, I need your mommy, daddy, your uncle, auntie, your brother, sister, anybody who's around you. I need your help most importantly in this lesson because I know my little girls, their fingers may not be that strong, but they can still do it. We still say, I can do all things with Christ who strengthens me. But help, a little help goes a long way. And I think abuelo, abuela, tío, tía, mama, papa, amiga, I think you're going to enjoy this lesson. So let's get on to this lesson. Okay, so we are looking at modes of transport. Let's see, hold on. Sorry about that. Right. Okay, so we are looking at modes of transport with respect to water, right? Right. So before we start going into modes of transport by water, who were the first people here in Trinidad? Well, the first people who were here in Trinidad before Christopher Columbus, before you and me, before all of this were the Amerindians. And they were known as the Kalani, the Wararo, the Nepu, the Taino, and the Carib people. And they lived off of the land, simply meaning that they lived in harmony with the land. So, and also, they were very industrious. They were hunters, they were fishermen, they were craftsmen, and they had to support their family. Their civilization looked nothing like ours. So from here you can see their house. Their houses were made of thatched roof, right? And their mode of transport was a canoe, which is a boat. And what they will do, they will travel. You see them in their canoe using their hands. They will travel in these canoes throughout the Caribbean region, exchanging goods and services, whether it's animals or fruits and vegetables. If they were traveling from one country another, this was their mode of transport. Now, the Caribbean girls, we are a group of islands. This is Trinidad, and they would take their little boat, their canoe, and they will travel across to Venezuela. They could travel all the way across here, or they will go all the way up at the islands, right? They will travel all the way up the islands, and their mode of transport is called a canoe. Vamos a viajar por la barco canoe. So let us travel by boat called the canoe, okay? Now, the Amerindians, we still have some of their generations here in Trinidad, and recently on the 13th of October, we celebrated First Peoples Day in Trinidad and Tobago. This is the presence of the children's generations of them, their presence here in Trinidad. And one day you can go with your parents to the Cleaver Woods Recreational Park and you would see left one of the buildings and you would see the tools, you will see how they lived, you will even see a canoe. Now a canoe, girls, is a dug out boat, right, from a tree. So sometimes they would, let me just get back to it here, they would cut down a tree, or if a tree fell, they would dig out the inside and it will be this long log, a boat, a wooden boat, which they would use to sail. They would use to sail throughout the Caribbean. It was their mode of transport. So you could imagine how long it would take for them to travel. Some islands, depending if it was close to Trinidad and Tobago, it would just take a day. But if they have to travel to Grenada or Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Guadeloupe, right? Anguilla, these islands go across to Puerto Rico, and that was quite normal for them. They would travel across to these islands back and forth. They would trade their goods, their food. Sometimes they might even trade their people. Like somebody might meet a boy, would meet a girl, and they might go to different islands to live, right? Yes, just like us. So this was all before our time. Then Christopher Columbus came and discovered, and things changed. All right. So the first thing I want us to do is to prepare our water. Notice how I'm telling you how to hold your paintbrush. Remember how I told you? You point your finger, right? You hold it like this, and I want you to make like U's across the water. All right? Dip into blue, azul, and make the letter U. Then, remember in our last lesson, we learned how to do a wash. The spaces in between, you will dip your brush into water. So you will get a watery look over what you have just placed. All right? So in effect, you'll have something like this. See how it looks like water? So sometimes the waters of the Caribbean will be calm, and sometimes it will be rough. So this represents that. Now this comes to the fun part. So I need, even though this is a second year infant project, this is where we need all the help of mommy or daddy or uncle or aunt or grandpa, grandma, cousins. We need your help. All right. So first thing you will need to use is like a toilet paper roll, not a toilet paper, sorry, a bounty paper roll, right? I want that long one for the simple reason I want us to make two boats from it. I want us first boat we make in is a canoe. Now this lesson is going to take 2 weeks. So the first week you could work on the canoe and next week you could work on the boat, all right? But the method of making it is basically the same. So from the same bounty roll, you will cut a small piece out for the canoe. The canoe represents the width of the tree, a tree. A tree is not that wide, right? So the Amerindians would use this narrow part. But as we developed and got more advanced, and with Christopher Columbus, our boats got bigger. So this will represent our bigger boat. All right? Now, so we are looking at this cutout here. Using this cutout, you are going to put some dots here, some dots here. These are fold line, and dig out again. This is what you're going to get. So you're going to put some dots here. This is your fold line. Similarly, this is your fold line. And this is the dugout part of a canoe. This represents a tree. So a tree trunk, what the Amerindians would do, right? So they cut off the branches, they cut off the roots, right? And then they would carve it into this curved shape and dig out the inside. Well, we're not going to go through all that trouble. What we're going to do is at these dotted lines, you're going to fold it, and this is the cutout pattern, right? I think the girls can do this. I think your little hands can do this. Now comes the fun part. So we fold it inside like this to get the fold line. And then when we flip it over, you're going to get this. This is where we're going to need some help. So this is the inside here where they're going to sit. Then we fold it back in and we're going to stick it together. And there is our narrow canoe, just like what the Amerindians had. Now, if you're using a glue gun, obviously, our little babies cannot put their hands on it. You could look and see how it's done. Or if you're using Elmer's glues work as such that you have to first apply the glue to the areas that you want to stick, leave it to dry, and then bring it together, right? So you need to leave it to dry for about, let's say, 15 minutes for the most, and then bring it together. White paper glue, okay? Next, you can use, I prefer that you use some sort of sticks. So if you want to use pallet sticks, you can stick the entire boat. I use matchsticks because I want to give the illusion of what the boat looks like, the canoe. It was made out of wood, right? And I place it on the water. You can make your oars too, right? So this is the first part of our lesson. Remember what we did. So this is a canoe. So the mode of transport for the Amerindians, let's go back up to the top, right? The first mode of transport, the first people who lived here in Trinidad were the Amerindians, and how they moved around was what was called a canoe. Vamos a viajar, repeat after me. Let us go and travel by boat. Vamos a viajar por la barco, right? And this barco is named a canoe, okay? Right. Now, let's go and make another boat. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to somebody. Right. Way before our time. This person, Harold Labourde, is the first. This is his wife and his son. Wait, I think I missed a picture. Right. First, I want you to learn about Captain Harold Labourde, right? When you get time, I want you to look at this video. Captain Harold Labourde was our first Trinidadian captain who traveled around the entire world with his wife and his son, 5-year-old son, around the world on his boat. And his boat was called a Ketch. And he designed it and he built it. When you get time, I want you to look at this video. All right? It's a bit long, but I want you to look at it. And I want you, when you look at it, I want you to imagine and dream and see how one man's dream allowed him to be the first person in Trinidad. He made his own boat, followed with his wife and his 5-year-old son, who's not much older than you. You are around his age. He and his mommy and his daddy, they traveled around the world in 4 years. It took 4 years to do that, exploring different countries, different islands, right? That's his wife and that's his little son. And that's the boat. Look at how simple the boat is. The boat that they traveled in was called the Hummingbird 2. So here we see it here, Hummingbird 2. That's Harold Labourde. Sorry I couldn't get a proper picture of him. But that's Harold Labourde. His love of the sea led him to travel around the world. And girls, this is a lesson. Dream big and make your dreams come true. I can do all things with Christ who strengthens me. I am sure when he was going with his boat, everybody said, that is too small. It's impossible to travel around the world with your little boat. So before we go to learning how to make the boat, let's look at the world. So here is Trinidad, and Harold and his wife, they went all here, all here, all here, all here, all here. Well, if it is wrong, it would take you back to this side, come back here, and come right back to Trinidad. So he, his wife, and his son, they traveled in their little boat all to these places. Isn't that amazing? So, remember the big toilet paper roll, the big bounty roll I told you about? You're doing the same thing, right? So you're folding here, and you're sticking it, and you're painting it white, right? His boat was wood, yes. It was made out of teak, but he painted it white. White has a way of reflecting the sun, right? Kind of jumped the gun here. Right. And for the sails, I use straws. You can use anything that you want, and I use a Bounty, my same Bounty napkin. I folded it in half so I can get two, because the name of the boat that he sailed in was called a Ketch. And a Ketch is just a simple boat with at least two sails, right? See, I wrapped it up there. Then I stuck it. And on the same paper, here it is. So my little model of my boat, notice is deeper, right? So even though we learned about Harold Labourde, our mode of transport is by boat. Vamos a viajar por la barco. Again, vamos a viajar por la barco. And one man's dream allowed him to travel around the world by boat. Today our boats are, well, small boats like Harold would be used, yes, to travel around the Caribbean, right? But now our boats are more advanced. When we want to travel to Tobago, it's more luxurious, it's fancy. We won't take 4 years to reach Tobago. We'll take just a little a little more than an hour, and we sit in comfort, and we won't feel the rough seas, right? So, and there's also another mode of transport on water, which I did not explore. We have the submarines, which don't travel underwater, but goes under the ocean, right? But that is more like for the army and stuff. We're not really concerned about, but that is also another way of traveling on water by something that floats. It floats under the water. So girls, abuelo, abuela, tio, tia, I know this would have been an exercise where most of the work would have been yours. I say gracias, I say thank you. But you know what? This is a time where this is you and your daughter time. It's a mommy me time, or abuelo me time, or tia me time, or tio ti, papa me time. It's a me time with you and that little one, a time you will never forget, right? So when you have time, I want you to go and look and see about the first peoples. They were really here before us. Take a visit to Cleveland. Get to see how simple life was. And look at how we have developed. And also dream big, girls. Dream. Because Harold was small like you, and he did something amazing. And in fact, he got one of the highest awards for traveling around the world. And do you know you can see that boat, Hummingbird, too? You better go quick though, because it's in a poor state. It's in South Key, right, which is in Port of Spain. You know where the lighthouse is in Port of Spain, that iconic lighthouse, right? As you go a little further, there is a museum, and his boat is there. So you could go and see how amazing he, his wife, and his son, who's a little younger than you, your second year, you are probably 6 or 7. But he and his wife and his son, they traveled in that little boat around the world. So with God, he did it. With God, all things are possible. So I love God, God loves me, and I could love everybody, and I could learn from everybody too. Adios, girls.